Hello, all you scientists, physicists, mathematicians, or anyone who's just interested in the topic. So, I did say I was going to make you guys wait for the next series, but no longer do you have to wait. I'm thinking Easter's coming up. I'm not going to make you wait that long, and I am going away for Easter. So I thought, let's make the first video of my new series. Let's make it brand new. Let's change the color scheme of the PowerPoint. Let's do a lot of things. So yeah, the color scheme of my PowerPoint, that's what I want to talk about first. It kind of just came to me, I guess. The bit on the right there that you see, it's similar to what I did last time. I've added a bit more like shading and things, and the colors they're a bit more kind of systematic and stuff. Anyway, I like what I've done. Perhaps the left side could do a bit more decoration. The top and the bottom, those banners there aren't particularly great. But so far that's what I've come up with. Yeah, so I'm actually starting Series 2. CSS2 is what I'm calling it. Computer Structure Series 2. So the second series of Computer Structure. In 0.0, I'm going to remind you about those important components that we talked about in 1.3. Now, I did make a mistake in 1.3. I'll talk about that in the next slide. But we won't just be rectifying this mistake. We will also be talking about some things that we missed. We will be doing a bit of learning in this thing, so don't worry, it's not just a revision thing. But we'll be doing the learning and the correcting and all that. We'll be doing that after my explanation of what my game plan might be. So let's go and do that. Okay, game plan for this series. You know what I could have done actually? The title could be in bold, in red, and it could just be massive, and it could cover the screen, and it says the plan or something. That's what I do in a lot of my work. I just as a joke. It's quite funny actually, and I write it in this font called Bauhaus, like Bauhaus 62, 52, 57, something like that. It just looks amazing. It completely covers the screen. It looks really professional, and it's pretty funny for anyone who looks at it as well. So yeah, let's talk about the game plan. In 0.0, that's this PowerPoint's presentation here. I'm going to go over the essential components of a CPU. We did do that in 1.3. I'm going to go over them again. I'm going to talk about one that we missed, which was the control unit. So if you've been confused when you saw that and you didn't know what it was, that will be explained in this video, so don't worry. In 0.1, the second PowerPoint presentation of CSS2, we're going to talk about go-to systems, which will be we talked about a lot of this stuff in 1.3 of the last series in CSS1, but we're going to talk about go-to systems and how programs dictate what order lines of code are executed. I won't go in depth in this video because of course this is 0.0. Anyway, in 0.2 we're going to be doing conditional branching. That's confusing. Okay, what's going to happen is you're going to learn about go-to systems, and you're going to learn about the control unit, and you're going to be, yay, I understand computing anymore now. And then you'll go into conditional branching, and you'll think, great, I have no idea what this dude's telling me. It's really confusing, and I don't get any of it. And to be honest, I don't blame you for that. It's a very difficult topic, which is why I'm spending a whole video explaining it. A lot of people go over it quite briefly, but then they have to keep explaining it video by video. I'll just be explaining it throughout a whole video, and well, yes, that's what I'll be doing, so that I don't have to go over it anymore. In 0.3 we'll do conditional branching based off of mathematical calculations. That's basically the same thing. In 1.0 we'll be doing advanced ROM and types of read-only memory. 1.1 we'll be going over variables. Those are kind of, you might have heard of those if you know how to code with specific languages, for example Python or Java maybe. You would have heard of variables before if you've done programming in your life. 1.2 we're going to go over GPUs very briefly, and in 1.3 we're going to go over line algorithms, perhaps things like Bresenham's line algorithm, a few more. None of them really come to mind, but we'll do line algorithms. So like I said, we're going to be going over the structure of a CPU again. As we know, the user needs to enter one or more numbers to the CPU for the CPU to process. After the processing is done, the user might want an output. Well, he or she definitely will want an output, because whatever the computer's done, if the user doesn't get an output, if it doesn't, he or she doesn't know what the computer's done, then of course there's not really going to be much point to that. It's going to be pretty pointless. So the parts are here. You have an I/O, an input and output system, and you have kind of a processor inside of the CPU. In 1.3, I talked about each part of the processor specifically. So I talked about the ALU, the registers, and I said that there was a control unit. There was actually a mistake, and the memory and the I/O, they're not part of the CPU. I said that they were part of the CPU in 1.3, but the CPU actually only includes the ALU, registers, and the control unit. Memory kind of encompasses RAM and some forms of ROM, including the program ROM. In different structures of computer, in different archetypes, the program ROM may or may not be stored in the RAM. So I haven't really made a whole new model, have I? I've just rectified what I got wrong. So we're not really going to draw ourselves a new model, we're just going to go with the one we've got, but just make sure that you're aware the CPU is the part, the ALU, the registers, and the control unit. The CPU doesn't involve memory, and it doesn't involve the I/O. So, like I said, we need to go over this control unit. We don't know what it is there, or at least you don't know what it is yet, so I'm going to have to deal with that. In fact, let's deal with it now. So first off, don't confuse the control unit with the program ROM. By that I mean you might think that the program ROM, because it decides what the computer's doing and when it's going to do it, you might think that's sort of a control unit in itself. Don't call it a control unit, because the control unit is something that kind of makes your life a bit easier as a programmer. It's not the PROM, don't get them mixed up. Secondly, let's ask the question, what is wrong with the ALU that we have? There isn't really anything wrong with it. ALUs in general are they're perfectly fine. But it's kind of undesirable to carry every single instruction that an ALU can perform. If you carry all those instructions all the way to the PROM so that the instruction can be executed by the computer's current line of code. Instead, there might be a certain combination of instructions that performs a useful operation. For an example, subtraction needs many instructions in order to work, and it would be a lot easier for the programmers to tell the computer, hey, do some subtraction, rather than to go through every step that a computer needs to do subtract. Now, it kind of relates to something known as a method, except a method is a sequence of instructions. How do I explain this? Right, okay, let's say you want to program a robot, and there's a common function that the robot will do. Let's say this is take 5 steps. What you're not going to do is you're going to say lift your leg a foot off the ground, move it forwards by a foot, and put your leg back onto the ground. Transfer to the other leg, lift it a foot off the ground, move it 2 feet forwards, and leave it on the ground. That's not what you're going to do, is it? So it's not essential that you include a control unit in your computer, but I'd recommend implementing some kind of control unit into it, just to ease the programming, because that's literally all it does. It just makes programming a whole lot easier if you've got a control unit for your ALU. With the control unit all done, we're going to start CSS2 properly, that is not going over stuff that I missed last time, and we're going to learn a higher level of computer. So I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learn, and I also hope to see you next time, where we'll discuss the go-to systems. See you then.